After chasing us all over the hostel, she got us all together, sat us down and told us that we were moving into our own house. This would be our home, and us kids were going to be going to our new school. There'd be no more moving from place to place. This is where we'd stay forever, she promised. It'd be clean and new. Heytesbury Road, Elizabeth West, was our home for the next few years. They'd be some of the best and some of the worst years of my life so far.
First memories of Elizabeth was watching the truck bitumenise the street. We moved in and it was still just a dirt street. First people into the particular house that we moved into. I've always said that as a kid, it's a great place to grow up, but when you're older, you wouldn't want to move there.
Yeah, this is all pretty full on up here. We used to just sort of run through these paddocks and you know, that was our football ground. First time I had sex was on this oval. Every house, every family was going through something. Some families, their parents didn't drink and they were poor, but they were safe. But most of them were going through something, like lots of girls being abused and, you know, boys being abused and lots of violence and lots of alcohol. This was our first home in Australia. You know, the hope and all that we had, you know, to live, you know, living there, we're going to have a life. And it just never happened. And, you know, and that house was probably the darkest place in the world for me. I jumped the back fence when people were here. I'd climb up, lie on the roof and hide from parents. I'd climb out the windows, be across here, anywhere but stay in the house. It was a horror house for me. Well, as kids, we didn't talk to each other about what was going on at home, you know, because everybody was sort of going through the same stuff. I mean, obviously, you know, I mean, my mate Bill, who lived over here, Bill was a nice Dutch family, and his family were really quite normal, and the house was neat and tidy, and the dad worked hard, and that was a sort of safe place. I remember when things would get too heavy here, I'd just walk out and run down the road and go and sit in there. And even if Bill wasn't there, I'd sit there with his mum and dad.
It said that my folks were pretty caring and Jimmy was in need of a feed. He used it as an oasis a little bit, our place, which was good. Every kid needs an oasis.
I remember 3 houses down, staying, you know, going there one night because I thought it was safe. And I was a good friend there. And I was in bed and his brother came home from jail that day and held me down, was trying to fuck me in bed, you know. And I was 7 years old, you know. And I just wriggled and screamed and climbed out his window and ran straight back over here. But when I left, he was shagging his brother. It was like, this was a really, so we didn't, and when I seen his brother the next day, we didn't talk about it. Elizabeth held nothing but bad memories for us kids. Glaswegians are staunch. I'm sure the same is for Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester. All those northern British towns had the fucking souls ripped out of them after the war, when they had no work, they had no hope, no prospects, nothing. They couldn't bring up their kids. And then to get a life, they were taken across the other side of the world and dumped in somewhere like Elizabeth and said, there you go, make a life. And they had nothing, and they'd lost their soul. Coming back from Port Adelaide and going to this high school, it was scary because they were hard boys. This is where I had to learn to fight again, basically. If you didn't fight, you became a target. And so, you know, it was like you choose your battles. And I learned how to pick the big guys that couldn't fight. I knew. I just run down these alleyways down here like this to connect sort of the streets. And we'd use them for getting away from people. We'd have fights down here, big gang fights, you know, with like bikies and all sorts of stuff. And the bikies had come out, you know, second best. They were frightening, the gangs that came from Elizabeth. This was at the car park at Elizabeth West Shops. The police didn't come down here very much. Occasionally, if there were really big brawls, and there were some here where this whole car park here has been like full of, you know, people getting beaten to a pulp. That's how you dealt with your problems, you know? If there's a problem, you knock it out. You know, you knock it down. If someone gets in your way, it doesn't give you what you want, you built them. You know, that's what I learned from my dad. I learned from my mum. I learned from their friends. I learned from my big brother. I learned from their big sisters. Anything you want, you either take it, and if you can't take it, you fucking smash it. And that's what we all did here.